Oh, Bruce Willis, what are you doing? Hi, my name is Justin the Clue, and I'm going to go through 3 new movies that came out this week and pick the best one. Those movies include Space Sweepers, Little Fish, and Breach. So, to talk about Space Sweepers first, it is a South Korean science fiction action adventure that is dropping directly on Netflix. Now, I am a huge fan of South Korean films. I think that they have a level of slickness, a level of wildness, and just a visual polish that I really like. Unfortunately, if something is going directly to Netflix, oftentimes there's a weird issue with it. So, is this one different? The plot has to do with a bunch of space sweepers, which includes a hotshot yet handsome pilot with a very dark past, a tough-as-nails captain, a tattooed and muscled engineer, and of course, the wisecracking robot who loves to wear sweaters. So this kind of looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. It has that same kind of snappy, sarcastic feel. The visual look is kind of crusted in dirt, which I really like, filled with doodads and gadgets and a kind of energy and whip crack editing that I really love. And the plot, which has to do with this gang of characters coming upon a small child that the super rich evil people of space really want to capture back, is the usual kind of stuff. I mean, you spend a lot of time with this little kid who's very precocious and cute and does really amusing stuff like fart. Fart jokes are funny. If you think differently, you're lying to yourself. But the issue with this film, even though it looks like $1 million, it has a problem that I feel like a lot of Netflix features have, even the biggest budgeted ones, which is nothing happens in the middle. Space Sweepers has a great, super fun chase sequence up front. It has a wham bam, thank you ma'am climax that goes on for like 25 minutes. But the film is like 2 hours and 13 minutes, and in the middle, there's just no action scenes. There's no set pieces. There's no real excitement. It feels like they're just hitting all of these story beats, which is extra frustrating because you have all of these cool characters. It looks great, and I'm involved in what's going on, but you gotta give me a little bit more excitement. I mean, South Korea can do this kind of stuff. It does great action scenes, but here, the structure is in place. It hits all the beats that it has to. Actually, I even think that it doesn't take as many risks as it should, but at the end of the day, there's nothing in the middle of it, and it's so frustrating. I don't understand how these movies end up this way, that instead of just having characters sit down and give exposition, which they do endlessly in this picture, they should just have stuff revealed through action. You can define character that way. You can even evolve character that way. But this film doesn't really do it, except for the beginning and the end, and those parts are so good that it's frustrating that the rest of it is not like that. This would get a very soft recommendation for me. I would probably rant and rave like I just did if somebody asked me, hey, should I watch that movie? But you've already experienced that, so keep it in mind when you check out Space Sweepers. Which again, the beginning and the end is so much fun. Why is the middle the way that it is? Oh, and I should point out that Richard Armitage, yes, the head dwarf in the Hobbit series, appears in this film as the English language villain, and he looked incredibly uncomfortable and unsure of where he is. His performance is something that I actually like in these international pictures, as if he got picked up from a hotel somewhere and they went, oh, you can speak English, so you can be the main villain in this multi-million-dollar production, which is weird considering he's actually a fairly experienced actor. Number 2 of the movies I'm talking about this week is Little Fish. Now, this one is essentially a downer romantic drama in the mold of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So much so that, spoiler alert, it kind of begins and ends the same way. It's about a young couple that just got married, and a new pandemic is currently sweeping the globe. Yep, it is very relevant, probably not the way that the filmmakers wanted it to be. And this pandemic is essentially an infectious version of Alzheimer's, that people are losing parts of themselves, memories, functions, just a terrible, terrible way to go, and something that happens to people all the time. And when Jack O'Connell in this movie catches the disease, Olivia Cooke has to struggle with the reality that the person that she loves in her life is sick and he's kind of losing himself, as well as tons of people around them are currently being affected by the disease in the same way. It is a very moving film. It has great performances. It's beautifully shot. And it's also kind of something that you've already seen. It's like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind without the whimsy. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. The story is clearly something that the filmmakers feel very personal about. It is seeped with emotion, and it is a reflection of anyone that has ever had to deal with somebody close to them that got sick in any form and has just kind of wasted away. But when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I've seen this before. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind told the same story, but in a way that I felt worked a little bit better, because the whimsy, instead of undercutting the emotion in Eternal, it actually amplifies it. While here, all you have is kind of a realistic misery of people dealing with a disease that, while in the context of the movie is fantastical, has effects that people are dealing with every day. Which is why it's a movie that I can respect and even like, and would recommend again with a little bit of trepidation, especially where we are as a species right now in the middle of a pandemic, where a movie like this is such a clear reflection of what a lot of us are going through right now, that it is punishing in a way that makes it difficult to just sit down and watch. And movie number 3 is Breach. Now, speaking of punishing, oh boy, Bruce Willis. What has been going on, man? I know you've been making a lot of crappy movies lately, but if people are watching this and they are not aware of what Bruce Willis has been doing, and they're like, oh, he was in Moonrise Kingdom a couple years back. He was really good in that. I assume he just kind of, took retirement, only makes the movies that he wants to make. Oh, nope, that is not the case. Bruce Willis stars in essentially a dozen movies every year, and every DVD box with very generic titles all feature his sad, depressed face as if somebody is holding a gun against him, forcing him to make these motion pictures. I don't know if Bruce has a lot of bills to pay. Did he skip out on some taxes? Does he have some divorces? That the alimony payments are really taking a big chunk of his finances? I mean, that's the only explanation I have for all of these movies that he's making that are just terrible. He's uncommitted. The directors, maybe they're trying their best, but the pictures are just awful. Breach, it's a ripoff of Alien if there was no alien and it was just zombies, but boring zombies, just guys covered in black ink and just running at Bruce Willis. I could explain the story, but it doesn't really matter. A bunch of people trapped on a spaceship. Bruce Willis is one of them. He's sad. He's angry. He just yells at a bunch of people. On the positive side, he does not sit in a chair for most of the movie like he does in pictures like Extraction, where he only showed up for a day and he did all of his scenes that they spread out throughout the movie. In a movie like Breach, it's clear that Bruce, he spent maybe 2 to 3 days shooting this film. It is so unimaginatively lensed, shot with a wobbly camera, which is a perfect sign that they were doing it from multiple angles so they could just run a scene, get a bunch, and then cobble it together in editing. No one's gonna really like this movie. It's just to trick people who see Bruce Willis's face and go, oh, Willis in space, Armageddon. I like Armageddon. Because when they're going to sit down and watch this picture, they are not going to have a fun time. It is pure misery. Just them running through hallways. At the end, the monster shows up. It's this terrible looking CG creation. Breach is just awful. So before I get to picking the best movie, you may be wondering, what about some other pictures you didn't mention? Like the Owen Wilson picture, Bliss, that's on Amazon Prime and hasn't been getting very good reviews. There, you just answered your own question. Or what about Malcolm and Marie? That looks like a fun film. I did not check that one out because I am not a big fan of the director Sam Levinson's previous film, Assassination Nation. In fact, I actively disliked it. And considering the reviews that came out for this new picture are very negative and seem to amplify all the stuff that I didn't like about Assassination Nation, I'm like, not for me, so I shall just skip it. Why did I watch Breach then? Look, I needed 3 movies this week. If I had to pick a best one, I would probably say that I would go for Space Sweepers. I know that I complained a lot about it in the beginning, but it's the one that I had the most fun with, the one that I would probably most easily recommend. Little Fish is very good. Technically it's probably the best. I'm breaking my own rules even though this is only the 2nd episode, but I don't think I would recommend it to people because of its dourness. And Breach? Well, I'm definitely not recommending Breach. Don't even watch it, even if you want to laugh. It is that bad. So check out Space Sweepers. It's on Netflix. Breach is on VOD and DVD, which was this week, tricking people across the United States who find it at Walmart or Redboxes, I'm sure. And you can also get Little Fish on VOD as well. My name's been Justin the Clue. You can catch me on the Bay Street Video Podcast, where I talk about all the new Blu-rays and DVDs. The link is right under here. Or you can catch me every Friday or Saturday, depending on when I can get this video out and watch all of these movies that I need to talk about. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe, because the more numbers that go up, the more people that watch, the more smiles that it brings to my face. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week when I have to pick the next best new movie.